I was thinking of ways that I could start off this video. Like, what sort of bold statement filled with really flashy words can I say to convince you that Spider-Man Miles Morales is a good time? The easiest way for me to do that is simply to say that I was 3 hours into the game before I twigged that I hadn't recorded a single second of footage. It's just that enticing. Marvel's Spider-Man swung into existence in 2018, and if you've been here since my first video, you'll know how much it impacted on me. It was the entire reason I felt compelled to start this channel. I'm by no means a die-hard Spider-Man fan, as I'm not a comic book reader, but since being introduced to the character through the 90s animated series on Fox Kids, who remembers Fox Kids by the way? And especially growing up with the Raimi trilogy, Tobey Maguire is still the GOAT. To this day! Spider-Man has remained my favourite superhero of all time. Now, I haven't played every Spider-Man game. My first entry into the series was the PS1 classic from 2000, so, you know, only missing about 18 years worth of entries before it. But since then, I grew accustomed to picking up a new iteration every few years, which included the PS1 sequel Spider-Man 2 Enter Electro, Spider-Man the Movie The Game, Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man Web of Shadows, The Amazing Spider-Man, Marvel Spider-Man, and now here we are arriving at Spider-Man Miles Morales. I don't think it's an unpopular opinion to say that Miles Morales had a lot to live up to. Coming out of the gate with their first attempt at Spider-Man, Insomniac Games pretty much nailed it when it came to the characters, the story, the open world, the combat, and the web swinging. Oh man, the web swinging. But we'll talk more on that later on. Miles Morales picks up about a year after the last game ended. Miles is instantly shown to us to be an upbeat, confident person with a deep love for his community and helping others. Within a few minutes after receiving a text from Peter, we see the duo in a mentor-student relationship, and it's clear that Miles has been slowly learning the ropes of crime fighting. After an exciting pursuit and face-off with Rhino, Miles is left alone to defend New York City, while Peter takes a trip with Mary Jane to Europe.
See you in a few weeks, Spider-Man. New York's only Spider-Man.
I was curious to find out how they'd write Peter out of the story so that Miles could be front and center, and I think this was the best route possible outside of crippling the poor guy, or even worse if they had killed him off in only his second game. Though, I will admit, I was worried that they had gone with the latter when Peter was seemingly on his way to meet Uncle Ben after fighting with Rhino, but thankfully this wasn't the case. So, Miles is left alone to protect New York. There's a new tech company called Roxxon on the scene, and a technologically advanced militia known as the Underground have appeared led by the Tinkerer. Let's get in and talk about Spider-Man Miles Morales. I think the first question that anyone will ask when diving into a Spider-Man game is how good is the web swinging? If you've heard anything about 2018's game, or even played it for yourself, you will already know what the next 2 minutes are going to summarize like.
I know what it feels like. It feels good.
The web swinging is my personal favourite out of any Spider-Man game I've played. There is a special place in my heart for the physics-based system in Spider-Man 2, and I always think Web of Shadows gets unfairly forgotten for its take on web swinging. But then again, I think Web of Shadows gets unfairly forgotten altogether.
Look at him, look at him!
Okay.
Look at it! Look at that face! Come on, look at that face! You look at him! Look at that face!
Miles gracefully moves through the staggeringly detailed New York cityscape with ease, and thanks to the beautiful animation work, it's hard not to sit back in awe as he launches himself into the air above a bustling city street bathed in the afternoon sun. Insomniac's approach to web swinging means that anyone can pick up a controller and be swinging with an almost flawless look to it. Spider-Man will essentially adapt to whatever surface that he comes into contact with. Swing into a wall and he'll smoothly transition into a run straight up it. Sprint across a rooftop with large objects scattered around and he'll hop between and generally navigate through the obstruction without interrupting the flow of movement. It's an incredibly cinematic system that heavily reminds me of the opening of Amazing Spider-Man 2, arguably one of the good moments in that film. Thank God they didn't take any more inspiration than that.
Bruh, look at this dude. Wait till you see the... No.
From the freefall dive to the web zip over the crest of a rooftop, Spider-Man has never looked this good moving through the environment around him. And the most brilliant thing about this system is that what I've just mentioned is all surface level. You can achieve all of this simply by holding R2 and tapping X occasionally when prompted. For those who want to take it a step further, you can introduce tricks between swings and experiment with combinations to produce a unique swing animation. You can use point launches to gain momentum. web zip through object gaps in the environment, mix in wall running, the list just goes on. I do think at this point I need to mention something that has potentially ruined 2018 Spider-Man for me, or at least the PS4 version. See, Miles Morales on PS5, and technically Spider-Man Remaster if you bought the Ultimate Edition, but I didn't, offers 2 modes to play the game in. You have Fidelity Mode, which locks the game at 30 frames per second, but allows for graphical enhancements such as ray tracing to be enabled, and it has to be said, it looks absolutely stunning. That's without question. However, the Performance Mode is simply beautiful. Performance Mode removes the enhancements like ray tracing, but increases the frame rate from 30 frames per second to 60 frames per second, and now I can't go back. I've played so many games at 30 frames per second this year and at no point felt that I needed the higher frame rate, but web swinging at 60 frames per second is now the standard I expect for Spider-Man games. I don't think the footage you're seeing will do it justice, so all I can say is find a way to get your hands on it because it's like seeing in a new dimension. Speaking of new dimensions, I really don't think that segue works as well as I intend, but we're going to stick with it. The DualSense controller, which is the PS5's new iteration on the classic DualShock, makes use of its haptic feedback and adaptive triggers to really help immerse the player into the game. No joke, in the opening cutscene a bus drives past in front of Miles and I let out an audible gasp because I could feel the vibrations pass from my left hand to my right in perfect sync. Yes, it's just a more reactive vibration in my hand, so what, right? But once you start to see the different ways in which the controller translates what's happening on screen, you'll know what I mean. A slight increase in rumble as the wind picks up whilst I'm mid-swing, or feeling little pulses at random corners of my hands when Miles' Venom charges at its maximum. It all adds up with the sound and visuals to create an almost 4D-like experience. This goes for the adaptive triggers too. Now I will say Astro's Playroom, which comes bundled with every PS5, does an even grander job with showing off these triggers, and maybe one day I'll talk about that one as well. However, feeling the slight tension build in the trigger when I shoot out a web line was awesome, and it really makes you feel like Spider.
Don't you dare finish that sentence. Don't do it. I'm sick of it.
Right, we've covered the web swinging, so what else is there to talk about? Combat. Combat is really good.
Yet. You're talking about shipment.
Like any open world action game, combat can go in one of 2 ways. You can take the stealth approach, webbing enemies up from the shadows or high up from vantage points, cause distractions with gadgets in the environment, and thanks to Miles' unique ability, you can now turn invisible for a brief period, which can help out when in a tight spot. The other option is full on wiping the floor with punches, kicks, webs, gadgets, finishers, and new to the arsenal, venom attacks. By now, the formula has been replicated a million times, with the Arkham-inspired one-button dodge and simple-to-learn, tricky-to-master moveset works perfectly here and gives you a ton of options to play with. Want to use gadgets like a holo drone who fights with you to help level the playing field? You can do that. Want to stack up combos and unleash devastating and cool-looking finishing moves? No problem. You can mix and match on the fly and create some truly wild methods to dispatch foes. Some personal favourites of mine being webbing a guy up, kick him to a wall and sticking him to it, or to shoot a gravity well and pull in all enemies nearby to one spot before using a venom launched and sending them all into the air for easy takedowns. Not to mention the environmental objects at your disposal for crowd control when the enemy count gets into the double digits. There is a skill tree in place as well as an upgrade system so that by the end of the game you'll be pulling off some incredible feats and suddenly 30 enemies becomes a playground of opportunities rather than a death sentence.
Had to figure out the Tinkerer's next move.
Okay.
Let's address the elephant in the room. Yes, Miles Morales is a shorter game than Marvel Spider-Man from 2018. If you're solely focused on the story missions, then this is an under 10-hour experience. Though, like its predecessor, your map of New York will quickly become packed with optional side quests, active crimes, collectibles, enemy strongholds, combat challenges, and so on. Does the game suffer because of this? In my opinion, no. The story is still incredibly fun with some spectacular set pieces and some pretty hard-hitting moments. Without spoiling anything, I will say I don't think the game goes out of its way to fool you on who the big bad is this time around, unlike Spider-Man's twist midway through its story, but this isn't necessarily to its detriment. As a launch title for the PS5, I think Miles Morales achieves its goal to show off just what is possible with the hardware and nicely bridges the gap between Spider-Man and its official sequel. Having 2 active Spider-Men in this universe sets up an exciting future ahead, and I hope the developers make use of this possibly adding in a co-op feature, or the ability to switch between Peter and Miles and make use of their unique fighting styles. Peter with his more diverse set of gadgets, and Miles with his Venom power. Before I wrap this video up, in what seems like to be a recurring segment where I list all the small things I've yet to mention, I do want to highlight a couple more elements in the game. Like most Spidey games, you can unlock and swap between suits on the fly, and just like Marvel's Spider-Man, each new suit offers new mods, such as the Into the Spider-Verse suit, which reduces Miles' movement to 12 frames per second mimicking the film, and allows for comic book style captions to appear during combat. These are all of course optional, and can be mixed and matched with any suit of your choosing to cater more to your playstyle. Like most games these days, Miles Morales features a photo mode, but I have to say, if not just missing out on the top spot behind Ghost of Tsushima, this is one of the most addicting uses of this feature I've found in a game. Due to Spider-Man's acrobatic nature, both in web swinging and in combat, I found myself consistently pausing the game to enter the photo mode and take a screenshot. In particular, the ability to change the suit regardless of what you're currently wearing, as well as being able to alter the lighting for that moment, really means that you can get the perfect shot that you're looking for. Finally, and this is less of a direct praise to Miles Morales, but more so to the PS5 in general, but the load times, oh my god, the load times. I timed it. From the PS5 menu to being in the actual game and playing, it took only 25 seconds. That is crazy, and it only makes me more excited to think about what can be achieved the further we venture into this new generation of gaming. Thank you so much for watching, guys. If you liked what you just saw, then please consider giving the video a like and subscribing to the channel. As we enter the Christmas holidays, it's unlikely that I'll be making a video this side of New Year's, but I do plan to continue making more videos down the line. So until next time, have a lovely Christmas, and I'll see you in 2021. Bye.